Presiding Officer, this morning I read the weekly brief from Unison Scotland, my own trade union, and I noted that on this debate today they said the following. They said the place principle states a more joined-up, collaborative and participative approach to services, land and buildings across all sectors within a place enables better outcomes for everyone and increases opportunities for people and communities to shape their own lives. They went on to say, these are fine words, very fine words. Indeed, all they lack are words in favour of the delights of motherhood and apple pie. So in other words, what is there not to like about the place principle? But Unison then make the point. They say principles and budgets are, however, different things. It is in the detail of the latter that the seriousness of the former is to be judged. An examination of the public realm in Scotland would surely be the starting point. That the efficiencies and improvements of recent years have seen so many towns and villages lose police stations, libraries and public toilets, as well as other reductions in public services, might suggest that fine words are being preached here, but not practised. So that's the view of Scotland's largest public service trade union and is in line with our amendment. I say to the Government and to all MSPs, if you fail to recognise the impact of austerity on local services and on local communities, then you're walking around with blinkers on when it comes to these issues. For example, last week I was contacted by a lady from Rowley who has mobility problems and uses a mobility scooter. She said that the good weather's coming in, but that the state of some of the pavements makes it very difficult for her to get around on her mobility scooter. So this, in my view, demonstrates that well-being, quality of life, physical and mental health, social and cultural life and sustainability are influenced by the quality and design of the places we live in. So the lady from Rowley is entitled to all these things. But moving from the rhetoric to the reality, the state of the pavements and the need for action is being halted by the cuts to council budgets. The council is struggling to fill the potholes, never mind fix the pavements. So let us not live in a bubble in this place. The reality is that in every community across Scotland, these issues exist. And we cannot gloss over the impacts of austerity. And neither should we, for austerity. Yeah.
Stuart McMillan.
I thank Alex Rowley for taking a brief intervention. Is Mr Rowley suggesting that potholes in our society are something that's only happened under austerity?
Alex Rowley.
Well, what I'm saying is that you only need to look at the evidence of the cuts to council budgets over this last decade to see the impact that that's having, and therefore the major barrier to some of the nice, kind words that's come from the Cabinet Secretary. Let us not live. Yeah.
Cabinet Secretary.
This debate is about trying to make better use of the resources that we have, to make good on the Christie principles, to make good on the notion of prevention, to ensure that we can make better use of public funds. But in a whole host of ways, the Labour Party have always failed to come up with something that's credible to help us and to contribute to the marshalling of those resources. They were absent in the budget debate, granted you as an exception, but we've treated local government fairly and we're seeking to work with them on this agenda to ensure that we can take decisions around the places, to ensure that people can feel that sense of well-being that I think we all probably agree with. But does he not accept, though, that Labour needs to be able to come forward with positive ideas about how we do tackle some of these vicious issues that he's described?
And before you respond, remember not to use the term you, but to speak through the chair. Please, Cabinet Secretary Alex Rowley.
Presiding Officer, if you look at the manifesto for the many, not the few, you would see a plan for £70-odd billion of investment coming into Scotland over the next decade. And that's the kind of investment that we need to create. I'm happy to work with other parties. I know that the party opposite actually support austerity, but I'm happy to work with parties to look for investment. But that's the kind of level of ambition that we need for Scotland, the kind of ambition that John McDonnell, as Shadow Chancellor, is putting forward in the manifesto for the many, not the few. So let us not live in a bubble in this place. The reality is that in every community across Scotland, these issues exist. The potholes, the pavements, the cuts to local services exist, and we cannot gloss over the impacts of austerity, and neither should we, for austerity is not an economic choice, it is a political choice supported by politicians in this place. As the late Martin McGuinness said, austerity is devastating communities. The working poor, public sector workers, the disabled and the vulnerable are the hardest hit by this bankrupt and ideologically driven policy. So the place principle is a useful framework that recognises that communities must be central to decision-making, and the most sustainable and beneficial outcomes are achieved when policy and practice integrate health, housing, environment, transport, community and spatial planning. But let us not use such frameworks to mask what is really going on, and otherwise the people will not be the only people that we will be fooling, will be ourselves, not the communities we represent. Well, now a year old, the Jimmy Reid Foundation and Unison report on local government is more relevant than ever. It states that changes such as cutting library and leisure centre opening hours may on the face of it seem incremental change. However, these changes can prevent some individuals in communities accessing valuable services. Poorer households are more reliant on a range of public services, so feel the cumulative impact of multiple small cuts. For those on low incomes, especially, those small changes may have a sizable impact and present significant and outright barriers accessing services. Labour's analysis published in December found that there had been £22 million of a reduction in spending for libraries over the past 6 years. A total of 69 libraries have closed across Scotland since 2011, according to official figures. This includes 30 in 2017, up 15 from the year before. The impact on cultural services has been far-reaching, with more than a £5 million cut from museums and galleries. Almost £20 million has been cut from the budget for sports facilities, while more than £30 million has been cut from community parks and open spaces. I know that in Fife, many really good projects that were built around the principle of social prescribing have disappeared as the funding has dried up. The place principle will never translate into meaningful community participation if people see not only the services they rely on being cut, but also the services that enrich their lives and make them feel part of the community being cut. A recent survey by Unison found that council workers identified a lack of frontline staff as one of the biggest challenges facing Scottish local authorities. More than two-thirds of those questions said that local residents did not receive the help and support they needed when they needed it, and 51% were not confident that vulnerable people are safe and cared for. During the passage of the planning bill, RTPI Scotland have stated that between 2009 and 2016, local authorities on average lost 23% of planning staff, while over the same period, planning service budgets were cut by an average of 32%. Now, I accept, Presiding Officer, that people genuinely want to use place to make the changes that's necessary. But I do say to MSPs in here today, If you don't recognise the impact of failed Tory austerity on our communities in Scotland, then you won't wake up to what needs to happen and the levels of investment that need to go into Scotland in order to achieve the ambitions that the Cabinet Secretary sets out.